So what if I told you this was my center back, pushing further than my center forward, in behind the defense, beating the goalkeeper, and scoring? Now, what if I told you that this was my center forward, and this was my AMF? Can you see the patterns? Alright, one more time. What if I told you that this player is not a center back, but still he protects the defense as if he is one? See, in eFootball, what is prioritized the most are not the positions, they're the roles. And over the last few months, I've tested a whole bunch of unusual formations. And what I've noticed are the patterns. The patterns in player movements are very specific. So I've been asking myself a bunch of questions like, why is my center back keep running in behind? Why does the DMF automatically drop back in transitions when the center back moves forward? And why, when the center forward drops deep, one player automatically knows that they have to run in behind? I knew one thing: the engine wasn't behaving randomly, it was following rules. It was clear to me that one player had to attack, one player had to maintain depth regardless of if the center forward was there or not, and three players had to protect the back line. If one center back pushed forward, the nearest player would compensate. So I kept asking myself, like, what if I deliberately break these rules? I came up with this crazy idea that I was gonna push the center back. Instead of defending with three, I was gonna defend with two defenders. So positioning is very important. I had to position the center back as high as possible because in eFootball, you can't actually play with two defenders. You have to find alternative ways to make it happen, which in this situation is to put him on offensive and position him as high as possible. This makes him push high. I also position the left and right midfielders much deeper than the average winger to give us more options in build-up and also to make them difficult to mark. I like anchoring the center forward or the secondary striker, simply because this is very positional and I don't want him to drift too much. Then we put deep line on one of the DMFs to complete that back four when defending. So during the defensive phase, one defensive midfielder drops back and the other one goes to the center. This makes us defend in a 4-5-1. This is important because not only are we attacking as a team, but we're also defending as one. In attack, this is the shape that I want to create, a very compact midfield with wingers. As we transition into this shape, the keeper becomes a third center back, and this gives us many options. We're committing so many players to the build-up that it makes it almost impossible for us to be marked. The width in this formation is very important. I would say probably 80% of the time, the wingers are going to be free, especially with the meta formations that everyone uses nowadays. Those many forwards that they have don't really drop back, so those deeper wide positions are places to exploit. Of course, if possible, we want to play through the traffic, through the center as much as possible. The center back acts as a orchestrator connecting everyone together. There's always going to be a free player somewhere in this formation. If the wingers are marked, the DMS are marked, then the AMS are most likely free, and you can play directly into them. And if they are marked, then you could play to the center forward. The main thing in this formation is to find the right solution in the right situation. Most players think this formation creates chances because of the players, but I think it creates chances because of the spaces it creates. The center is already occupied by four players, so the opponent naturally becomes focused on protecting the middle. Because these wide midfielders start deeper than traditional wingers, they're much harder to mark. By the time the opponent reacts, we've already created an overload on the flanks. Look what happens in this clip. In build-up, the center remains compact, the overload develops out wide, and suddenly we have multiple passing options. This leads to an opportunity to find a free man in the space. The half spaces are special because it forces difficult decisions. If the fullback steps out to press the wide midfielder, the half space immediately opens for that attacking midfielder. If the fullback stays narrow instead, the wide midfielder has time and space to receive. Either way, someone is free. Creating chances is only half the story. The real surprise came from when we lost possession. Once the defense is organized, we naturally return to a compact 4-5-1, making it difficult to play through the middle. Most of the meta players want to attack centrally as quickly as possible, but by keeping this area compact, we're forcing them into wider areas or forcing them back where they're much less dangerous. Normally, you'd expect pushing a centre back into midfield to make the defense weaker, but during my testing, the opposite happened. As soon as possession is lost, the hybrid centre back immediately begins recovering, while the two defensive midfielders drop into the back line. For a brief moment, the engine appears to prioritize protecting the centre before everyone settles back into the defensive ship. And if they try going wide, the wide centre backs or the full backs are usually in the perfect place to defend that transition. Of course, every formation has risk, and losing the ball directly in front of your defense is definitely the biggest risk of this formation. We can easily be exposed. So it's important to understand exactly what you're doing in this formation and understand how to build up properly, because if not, you could concede goals like this. Overall, this formation isn't just about moving a centre back into midfield. It's about understanding the rules behind how eFootball maintains its structure. Now, this is only one of the hidden rules I've discovered. Over the next few videos, I'll be testing things like false nines, roll compensations, and other engine behaviors that most players never notice. So if you're interested in understanding why eFootball works the way it does, consider subscribing. Peace.